Mother of God.
Hello guys, this is I think my fourth MMO video of what is an MMO series, and this one is class roles, the role you play with your class. So, in most MMOs today there are 6 of them. Six of them. The main 3 are tanks, healers, and DPS, damage per second. The other 3 are off tank, off healer, and off DPS. So, tanking. When you're tanking, this is mostly a PvE role. But tanking, if you're in an operation situation or a raid, working with other people to take down computer-controlled enemies, the tank will be taking what's called aggro, which is the attention of the enemy. If the enemy is attacking a healer or DPS who don't have as much health as the tank, they'll die in a lot less hits than the tank will. The main role of the tank is to keep aggro on the enemy and keep the enemy's attention and attacking the tank, because they can take a lot of hits. They specialize in having a lot of health and a lot of defense, and they keep the attention of the enemy on them so they don't attack the lesser, weaker team members of the tank. Then there's the off tank, which let me get to that later. So there's the tank. To grab aggro from the enemy, they use what's called a taunt. This is an ability that raises what's called their threat. The more threat you have, the better chance of getting aggro from the enemy. Taunts increase your threat, so these taunts are very valuable to tanks. Okay, so what else? They do have attacks, but mainly they go for the stat they go for the most is endurance. Then there's also defense rating, absorption rating, that type of thing. Everybody has to deal with the mechanics of a boss battle. I'll go into more detail about what boss mechanics are, probably in another video. So that's the tank. They are used to keep the attention of the enemy on them so they can take more hits and survive longer. Then there is the healer, which is self-explanatory. They heal everybody in the group. They have healing abilities that heal the target, obviously. They can grab aggro, not intentionally, but they grab aggro from healing a lot. This is the fact that they grab aggro is mainly used as a challenge for the tank, so they can keep trying to keep aggro on them, on the tank. Because you don't want the boss. The only person you want the boss attacking is the tank. Then, so there's the healer. They make sure everybody stays alive. They can put shields on people so they take less damage. They can do area of effect heals, which heal multiple people at a time. Then, and these are usually very weak ones, very weak classes. They usually wear light armor because they really don't need the defense. They have defense spells and heal, so they don't need the defense when fighting people. Then there is DPS, damage per second, which is my personal favorite one. Damage per second are the damage dealers. They deal the most amount of damage in a battle most of the time. They are the ones mostly doing the damage to an enemy. So you've got the tank keeping attention on the tank from the enemy's perspective. Sorry, let me restart. The tank is having the enemy attack them. The DPS is damaging the enemy while the enemy is attacking the tank. The healers are healing everybody, so they make sure they stay alive. DPS can also grab aggro unintentionally, mainly just used as a challenge for the tank to keep aggro on them. The DPS gain aggro from doing a lot of damage. The more damage you do, the more aggro you get. So there's that. You always want to keep the enemy attacking the tank. You always want to keep the healer healing everybody. You always want to keep the DPS damaging everybody. Then there's the other 3 roles: off tank, off healer, and off DPS. These are the people that do 2 of the 3 roles at a time. Now, let's say a healer can also have damaging abilities. A healer can spec in, or a certain class can spec in either healing or DPS. That means they're a little dependent upon their spec, what they're good at in the game, what they're specialized for. They can either be good at either one. So let's say one of your healers dies, Somebody who's mainly DPS but can also heal is going to be an off healer, which means they'll specialize in heal. They'll devote some of their abilities to healing during the battle, while also damaging the enemy. Now, this is not good because it takes up most of their mana or their force, whatever they're using. That's not usually a good thing. You want everybody has to be dedicated to what they're mostly good at. You don't want somebody to be an off person. So there's that. There's off tanking, off healing, and off DPS. That's the six roles in an MMORPG. Also, the tanks are usually the one to start the battle, because whoever starts the battle will get aggro on them first, and you always want the tank to have the aggro once again. And usually a good rule of thumb is to let the tank aggro and attack the enemy for a couple seconds before people start jumping into the battle, just so the tank has built up enough threat to keep the enemy on them. Now, so yeah, the tanks have taunts and healers have healing abilities. Healers also have HOTS, heals over time, which is a buff you put on somebody, a team member, who gets healed periodically over time. So like, let's say when you cast the spell, it heals them for 1,000 hit points, and then it'll heal them for another 3,000 over 5 seconds, something like that. DPS, just generally straight up, just have damaging abilities. Some of them have healing abilities, depending upon what class or what game you play. A lot of abilities are completely different between games, but there's that. The interesting thing about healers is that one weapon they have that really helps them out is their cast bar and the user interface of the game. Now, the cast bar, you want to know what that's at all times. The cast bar is a bar that goes across the screen that tells you how long you have left till you actually do an ability after pressing the hotkey to do that ability. So let's say you press Control 1 to do a heal. You're casting it. It takes 3 seconds to cast. Once those 3 seconds are up, you'll heal that person. And then the user interface. Usually for healers are the ones that mostly benefit from a certain setup of the user interface. They set it up so they see everybody's health bar in their raid group, so they know who's at what health, sometimes at what percentage, and what exact numbers they're at. Mostly percentage helps them out. And then healers also have a cleanse ability, which means they can take a certain debuff, which is the opposite of a benefit on somebody. I don't really know the opposite word of a benefit. A con, I guess you could say. Like, benefits are pros for a player. Buffs are pros for a character, something that helps them. Debuffs are something that's counterproductive for them. It could be damaging them over time or something like that. Healers have what's called a cleanse ability, which gets rid of that debuff. That's another thing that healers do. Once again, tanking is mostly for PvE battles, where the computer AI where the attention of the computer-controlled enemy can be controlled. It can be redirected to certain players. In PvP, that doesn't matter. Taunts don't matter, because you're fighting a player character, somebody who's actually playing that enemy. They know to attack certain people rather than just the tank. That's the problem with tanking classes. And then there's also dependent upon the size of your group that you can have. Like, for, let's say, in World of Warcraft, for what's called an instance, which is a 5-grouped raid, you would have, I don't entirely remember, I guess 3 DPS, 1 healer, and 1 tank. That's mostly how it is for an instance. In Star Wars, you can have 4 people in a group. So you've got 2 DPS, a healer, and a tank. And an operation, which is a raid in Star Wars: The Old Republic, it really depends what operation you're doing, because a lot of different bosses can have different mechanics. Sometimes you need 2 tanks, not just 1. So you've got to save room for that. The rest is healers and DPS. Sometimes it's better to have 2 healers rather than just 1. I think you always want to have 2 healers in a group. When World of Warcraft first came out, they had 40-man raids, AQ 40. I didn't play those. I didn't start WoW till late, so I wasn't there for the 40-mans. But I really can't imagine how those ended up. Those must have been crazy. I really can't imagine organizing one of those. But I really would have liked to have been there. Raiding is the funnest part for me in an MMO. I don't do PvP at all, so the classes I have right now in Star Wars that I'm playing right at the time of this video, my main is a DPS and a healer. My alt is a healer. Loving my alt right now. It's so fun. I haven't healed since World of Warcraft. I stopped playing World of Warcraft in 2008, and I don't remember healing being this much fun. It's really fun. So that is about it. Look for my last video, which was last week. That was, I can't remember. Let me look it up. My last video was the subscription models for MMORPGs in the What is an MMORPG series. So look for that. That was last Monday. Look for my next video, which is hopefully going to be Wednesday. I'll put a link up for that when it's up. And that is it for the roles of massively multiplayer online role-playing games. If you want to be friends with me on Steam, my Steam name is the same as my YouTube name. And don't forget to like my Facebook, please, and comment and subscribe. Thank you.